Hello and welcome to Round 6 coverage of Grand Prix Phoenix. Brian David Marshall here in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen. And there you get a look at Sam Pardee facing off against John Stern. These guys know each other very well from working together on the Pro Tour. And here we see Sam Pardee is, he's got a luck counter.
Ooh, very nice. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is Gemstone Caverns. It essentially lets you steal the play.
And here you see, wow, there's the gemstone. You see Gemstone Caverns. So Sam was on the draw, but was able to have two lands in play a Mind Stone, and play a Terrarian before passing the turn back to John Stern for his second turn.
You know how I said that the deck is capable of winning on turn 3 with good draw? I believe the deck is actually capable of winning on turn 2 with an exceptionally good draw. Thanks to that.
All right, we're going to see a Terrarian activation here. So there's the fourth land that would be needed for Kirkland Ironworks. He does have the Ironworks in hand.
And he may want to do a bit of a setup turn here.
So this is Sam's turn 2. And he has played Kirkland Ironworks. There you get a look at the card. Sacrifice an artifact, add 2 mana to your mana pool. So a card that has been something that has whetted the appetites of combo players and deck designers in Modern for a long time, but really has only found its place in really the last season or so of Modern.
Yeah, I think Scrap Trawler really gave this deck, a shot in the arm in a way that a lot of other cards that people may have previously thought were kind of the tipping point for this deck didn't quite have. Scrap Trawler really takes this deck from reasonable to completely unreasonable.
Yeah,
it is now a very consistent and powerful combo deck, and the fact that you can find all the pieces you need with something like Ancient Stirrings really just pushes it over the top.
That line or another artifact you control really pushes this card from a really neat little card to a potentially very powerful engine card. Well, there is an Oblivion Stone from John Stern on turn 3. He has completed the natural Tron, as we say.
Yeah, now, if I'm Sam Pardee, I want to go off and combo this turn. The major reason I want to be doing that is because right now, John doesn't have the mana to activate that Oblivion Stone, and once he does, it's going to be very difficult for me to win through that. This is a very easy matchup. I know that there's not going to be much resistance from a deck like John's when I'm trying to go off on this turn, so I'm just going to do it.
All right, well, here you see Sam is starting to do that. He sacrificed the Mind Stone, returned to Terrarian, sacrifices the Terrarian. You see his keeping track of how much mana he has in his mana pool. He has 4 colorless at the moment. All right, things are going to start to accelerate here. There's a Pyrite Spellbomb. It's going to drop him down to 3 mana. Oh, he's going to sack it, though. Go back up to 5. All right, you can see sort of the power of this deck.
Yep, here we go. Now, because he has double Scrap Trawler, he's able to return both of those artifacts with the Scrap Trawler abilities here. John's like, I trust us to just say it aloud.
So basically, Sam has demonstrated the ability to make as much mana as he needs.
Yeah, now he essentially has an unlimited amount of mana because of the Hangerback Walker in conjunction with Kirkland Ironworks. Hangerback Walker has a converted masking cost of 0 and can be sacrificed, twice. You pay 2 for it, you sacrifice it, and then you sacrifice the token you make off of it. And then when you sacrifice the Hangerback Walker, you can loop. And that's how it works.
So that's what's happening here. So a second Clark Clan Ironworks.
Not necessarily infinite, but enough to keep going for as long as you'd like to. Let's just say.
So you see him pointing to his cards. Now that Terrarian lets him keep drawing an extra card.
Mm-hmm.
Gets back a Mox and a Hanger back. Draws. What is he looking for at this point to finish this off?
He will eventually find and Rockle the Eon's Torn and take an extra turn, make John sacrifice all of his permanents.
That Oblivion Stone looking quite quaint here.
Yes. 1 mana shy of activating that Oblivion Stone.
Right. The other two Urza parts both make 2 mana. And so he can only make 4 mana this turn.
And if you're having trouble beating Tron and you're playing a deck that's, playing normal Magic, I highly suggest trying something like what Sam is doing here. Something like Ironworks combo, something like Storm. These decks that attack from interesting angles, these decks that are not playing a normal game of Magic, these are the decks that really punish a deck like Mono Green Tron. If they're playing against a combo strategy that can kill them quickly, they are playing a mostly sorcery speed, minimally interactive strategy that preys on fair decks.
Now, why is John not conceding here?
So there is a non-zero fail rate for this Ironworks combo, and what I mean by that is that there's some percentage of games where somebody starts going off in the way that Sam is going off here, and they are unable to continue infinitum. And here, Sam now has the Mirror Retriever, which is essentially everything he needs.
So he sacks the Mirror Retriever. The Mirror Retriever lets him also bring back the Hanger back. Oh, no, lets him bring back the Clark Clan Ironworks here. So it's just target artifact.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose if the Eon's Torn is the bottom card of Sam's library, then on the extra turn, he would deck himself.
Doesn't play 1 Elixir of Immortality just to be safe?
It's not. He does not.
Wow, look at this. This is turn 3, folks.
Yeah.
He didn't even play a land this turn, did he?
He has not played a land yet this turn.
And is that enough? Yes. John Stern has finally seen enough of the combo
that
he's willing to pack it in.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry, but something I missed there is that Sam could actually also, at that point, loop Pyrite Spellbomb infinitely and could have won the game that way without even having to draw any more cards because of the setup that he had.
Okay.
So, yeah.
do a little bit of damage each time he cycles. He goes through that cycle.
Yeah, he had enough pieces where he could just create the loop, and instead of sacrificing the Pirate Spellbomb to add 2 mana to his mana pool, he would instead be paying in another red, sacrificing a deal 2 to John, and he'd create that loop also.
Pretty exciting. We haven't seen a lot of the Gemstone Caverns was actually essential there.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really have the time to fight through John's draw on his normal turn sequence. He needed that extra mana to be able to jump his the turn sequence. So you got to look at Gemstone Caverns, of course.
Yeah, and that's a really exciting card that I think has been underutilized over the course of Modern thus far. This is a card that, as a one-of, I've seen very good deck builders put this in their sideboard for when they're on the draw and they're playing a deck that has a tremendous advantage when it happens to be on the play. But particularly an advantage when it's on the play that is a deck that does not necessarily need to be doing something on the first turn. So if it's a deck that doesn't play a ton of board impacting or game impacting 1-mana cards, that also gains an advantage from being on the play. So basically exactly the type of deck that Sam is playing here. That is precisely where you want a card like Gemstone Caverns, because you discard a card from your hand, you get to start with it on the battlefield. It's essentially like you're stealing the play from your opponent, only you're not going to get to spend that mana on your first turn.
Now, you talked about this being a nightmare matchup for John. I think we kind of got a sense of that there. What can he do after sideboarding to combat Sam Pardee?
So a really nice card here for John post-board is Surgical Extraction. That can mess up Sam during combo in a lot of different ways. Another thing that John can do is he can use Nature's Claim to pick off particularly powerful artifacts. John can also use Relic of Progenitus to interact with Sam's graveyard while Sam is trying to combo off. So there are a lot of different things that can be done here by John Stern in post-boarded games. Thought-Knot Seer even is a good way to disrupt the combo and pull it apart. The one major issue with a card like Thought-Knot Seer is that John won't be able to cast a card like that until his third turn. And that's under optimal circumstances. That's when he's hitting Tron on the third turn, which it doesn't happen all the time. Contrary to
everyone's experience
narrative
playing in a league against Tron.
But Sam post-board...
Yeah, I was going to say, what does he do now? I mean, he's got to be aware of cards like... Thought-Knot Seer is obviously a card he's aware of in the Tron matchup, but, he has to know about cards like Relic of Progenitus and Surgical Extraction and other cards that are going to punish his graveyard. So how does he compensate for that?
So the most important thing that Sam will be doing doesn't necessarily have to do with the cards that he's sideboarding and the makeup of his deck as he's approaching these second games. It has to do with how he's going to approach comboing in these games. And he's going to be kind of curating his graveyard in such a way where he is able to have a minimal amount of pieces in the graveyard at any particular point, and he will also have ways in which he can usually return those cards at instant speed from the graveyard, thanks to something like Scrap Trawler. And using those particular play patterns to protect pieces from something like Surgical Extraction, to protect an overabundance in the graveyard from something like a Relic of Progenitus, those are the ways that Sam Pardee can effectively fight through that hate. And if he wants to play that way, that really only slows down this deck's combo by maybe one turn, maybe 1.5 turns, depending on his draw. And John Stern's, offensive game plan, if he's playing all these reactive cards, might be slowed down about the same amount.
Now, what does a win look like? What does a winning hand look like for John Stern here?
A winning hand for John Stern, I imagine, involves some combination of either Relic of Progenitus, Surgical Extraction, Thought-Knot Seer. I think having an Oblivion Stone in play, being able to clean up the board is very important. And I think in the end, what he really wants to be doing is casting either an Ulamog or an Emrakul the Promised End, which John has access to. And that card is unbelievable in a matchup like this,
really?
Where he could...
Taking control of the KCI player's turn is good?
A portion of Sam's lands or even artifacts. So John could play Sam's whole hand, play the KCI, make Sam sacrifice the majority of his permanents and leave him with nothing in hand and lands on the battlefield that have minimal impact.
I would like to see that happen.
That'd be really cool. Another thing to note here, though, is that Sam's deck mulligans very poorly. It is a very, very bad deck at mulliganing, and the thing is the deck kind of just cycles through itself in many ways.
Now, let me ask you about that. We talk about how well a deck mulligans. Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek are such among the most commonly played cards in Modern. Why would you play a deck that your opponent can then mulligan you for your best card? Like, what? How do those two things reconcile each other?
So what's interesting about a deck like this is that you take that into account by taking into account how much your opponent is slowing themselves down in order to play. those discard spells, and your opponent is taking a card away from themselves in order to do that also. So Sam, he's fine getting Thought Seized, having his best card taken, because his deck is very good at finding additional copies of those best cards by just ripping through the deck. What he doesn't want to do is not have the requisite number of artifacts in play to actually go off. That being said, Thoughtseize and Inquisition, those are really good cards against Sam. Thoughtseize in particular.
All right, we're underway here in Game 2. John Stern leads things off with an Expedition map. We see a Chromatic Star, a Mox Opal, a Darksteel Citadel.
Yeah, very early Metalcraft there.
And then an Ancient Stirrings from Sam Pardee. What is he going to reveal? Looks at his hand. He's got another Darksteel Citadel in his hand. And that's a Scrap Trawler. That's a key piece to this puzzle for him. We saw it in Game 1.
And Ancient Stirrings there. One of the most powerful cards in Modern. I think there are a lot of decks that exist in Modern strictly because Ancient Stirrings exist. The fact that you get to look at 5 cards and take your pick of the litter is quite incredible.
Both of these players, right, are playing Ancient Stirrings?
Yeah, both players are absolutely playing 4 copies of Ancient Stirrings.
So, sacks a Chromatic Star for Ancient Stirrings on his next turn. There's a Mind Stone. And the Darksteel Citadel. There's the Mind Stone. Passes the turn. Now John is going to go search for a second piece of the Tron puzzle.
And Sam here, because both the lands that he played are Darksteel Citadels, will not have too much of an issue of going off on his third turn here if he does have access to a KCI. Or Cart-Clan Ironworks.
Yeah.
Oh, it does look like he has a lot of lands in hand. Not the best hand here for Sam.
But he has an Ironworks, and he has a Trawler. Is that enough?
I think it really depends on what type of interaction John is working with also.
All right, that's another map. And so John, you see John put his little reminder on his deck. He's like, if I get another turn, I'd like to make sure I'm using my map first.
And if I'm Sam here, looking at his hand, I think I'm pulling a trigger.
A whole lot of triggers.
Yeah. I could be wrong, though. I've not cast a Cart-Clan Ironworks in about a decade.
All right, well, it looks like we are going to see the Ironworks. Here it comes. Sacks a Darksteel Citadel. That's 2 mana. And plays a Terrarian. There you see Buried Ruin. That lets him return an artifact from the graveyard to the hand.
And I like the Buried Ruins here a lot. I think he's playing those over Sanctum of Ugin, which was in some previous lists.
So Terrarian gets sacrificed with the Scrap Trawler in play. That returns the Mox Opal. And you can see he's got considerable amount of mana in hand. Now he's going to draw.
I'm actually somewhat surprised that he kept the Mind Stone untapped as opposed to the Buried Ruin. He's probably doing it because he wants to draw a card with the Mind Stone, perhaps, if he's still trying to go off. However, leaving the Buried Ruin untapped would allow him to protect himself from a card like Surgical Extraction. Of course, he's playing against Tron, and they often have different graveyard hate than that, so he could just not know that Surgical Extraction is even a possibility here.
So now Sam is going to go through the process of cycling back and forth between an opal, a chromatic star. So he basically has to keep finding one thing that's bigger than the star to keep the cycle going, and that's kind of how he can fizzle a little bit here.
Yeah, and then now he's up to 8 mana, so, and now more. So mana is not really going to be an issue for Sam at this point. I think Sam is more concerned with finding a steady stream of cards.
There goes that second copy of Ironworks, which essentially lets him, with the scrap trawler, just get back any card he needs.
Yeah, so he's going to be able to get this Mind Stone, which will be able to cantrip. I imagine he's not going to be sacrificing that for mana. He's going to be... oh, no, he is. Okay. He probably has more gas in hand then. If he's doing that, then I imagine the game has already ended. We just didn't know.
Well, it looks like he has a second copy of Scrap Trawler there. So
that's going to be it.
A pretty big sign in Game 1 that things had turned a corner. And there is Scrap Trawler. Going to play a star. That's going to get him back 2 Mox Opals.
Yep. Each of which is 3 additional mana.
Just found another Terrarian. GG, GG, GG. He just keeps writing it down. When will John... Now, the thing is, John could have a surgical extraction in hand, and then this would all be moot? Or no?
No, I mean, at this point, John certainly does not have it.
Right.
He would have gone for it sooner. And it just wouldn't be enough at this point. There's enough variety in Sam's graveyard that he continue going off through it.
That's all I want to do in life is get 2 chromatic stars back.
Yeah. And then each of those chromatic stars gets you a pair of Black Lotuses because the Mox Opals make a mana and they
That's
sacrifice.
a great way to look at it.
Ironworks.
You see John has reached for the slip.
Yeah.
He's pretty close. He's on the verge. He can feel the match slipping away.
Yeah. But this is kind of what you're afraid of when you're playing against, or when you're playing a Tron deck. When you play against these types of combo strategies that are really focused on winning the game as fast as possible and have the capability to win on the third turn, as we saw Sam do here twice. Sam won on the third turn in both of these games.
Yeah, he just sacked Black Lotus, Black Lotus.
Yeah. And he's going to get to do that every single time he plays one of these stars, and he has 2 more stars in hand.
I believe you mean Soul Rings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But they draw him a card. They're Soul Rings that draw him a card. It's important. An important...
This has just been an absurd showing here by Sam Pardee.
You're really showing off the...
It's like, okay, I'm going to get these 3 cards back now.
No. It's nice we had that fun story to lead in about this Ironworks combo deck in terms of the way that it goes infinite and kind of the newly discovered endgame of the deck.
John, a very methodical player, he's just sort of going, okay, let's make sure we're going through everything and just demonstrate this for me. So Sam is starting to, go, okay, this is a loop. This is a loop. I'm going to keep drawing a card. I'm going to keep putting a disgusting amount of mana in my mana pool. So now I'm going to get these 2 back, and you're going to scoop. John's like, maybe I shouldn't scoop. I don't know.
Like, you want to just do it for me? I could do a triple backflip. Show me.
All right. Finally, John has had enough, and he is going to reach for the slip. And Sam Pardee goes to 6-0 playing Clark Clan Ironworks. And I got to tell you, I'm excited. That may not be the most exciting deck in the world to watch go through its motions. You obviously compared it to Eggs, which is a deck with Second Sunrise that we saw win a Pro Tour way back in the early days of Modern. Pro Tour returned to Ravnica in, 2012. Pro Tour that our co-commentator Eduardo Sajgulik is well familiar with. It's where he made his first top 8. But really, I mean, just exciting to see a card that people have been is such a. It's on everybody's drawing board when you're building decks in Modern.
Oh,
right?
yeah. If you're a brewer, this is a card you think about often. Like, it enters your brain at least once every few weeks.
and pieces come in like Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever and finally pieces together. Let's talk to Sam Pardee a little bit. Hey, Sam, BDM here with Jake Van Lunen. We just watched you turn 3 your opponent twice. What was going on with your decision to play Clan Ironworks? Was it being able to turn 3 your opponent twice?
It's not bad, yeah, and you get the luck counter. That's pretty nice. No, me and Matt Nass, BK, Andrew Beckstrom, and Ben Whites worked on the deck a lot. We tried it, and we're just winning a ton. We had kind of tried it for the Pro Tour, but it's kind of awful to play on Magic Online because you have to loop all these things, and it just involves a lot of stuff happening, so it takes a long time to kill.
Win a lot of game 1s, don't have a lot of time for game 2s.
Yeah, so Matt played one league with it and was like, I went 4-1, but this is just not. I don't want to keep doing this. So we added Emrakul to the deck, which makes the kill a lot tighter. You just play Emrakul and your opponent dies most of the time. And lately, it seems like there haven't been a lot of Stony Silences, Rests in Peace, and Leyline of the Void, which are really the cards that you're the most afraid of by a lot. So we figured, spin the wheel with this. It's been pretty good so far. Coming into this round, Beckstrom was our only player who had taken a loss, so we've been doing well.
Wow. So now talk to me. You obviously were demonstrating some things for John Stern there towards the end of that game too. What were you explaining in terms of how this deck is, established a lock?
So the loop is you have a Scrap Trawler, a Mirror Retriever, a 1-cost card that draws you cards, like a Chromatic Star or Terrarian, a Mox Opal, and then a card that costs more than the Mirror Retriever. So you sack the Mirror Retriever to get back the card with the Mirror Retriever's ability that was more expensive than it, and the 1-cost, right? Then you play the 1-cost, sack it, which gets back the Mox Opal and draws you a card. Then you play the Opal, make a mana, sack it. So now you've got a bunch of cards, or you've got a bunch of mana. You've drawn 1 card from the top of your deck. Then you play the card that costs more than Mirror Retriever, sack it, get back the Retriever. You're back where you started, but you're up a card and maybe mana, depending on how much the card you played cost. Usually, if it's a KCI, it's mana neutral. If it's another Scrap Trawler, then you net a bunch of mana. And from there, you draw your deck, make infinite mana. You can kill them with Pyrite Spellbomb because you can loop that in the same way, or you can play Emrakul.
There's no way for you to fizzle. It's not like one of those cards could be the bottom card of your deck or something like that where you're just going to – it's just a given that you're going to win from that point.
Yeah, it's pretty much a given. You also have some sideboard cards, or some main deck cards. So you have Engineered Explosives. If they have a Leyline of Sanctity and you need to kill them with Pyrite Spellbomb, you can loop that. You're going to make a ton of mana. You have Mox Opal, so you can make all the colors. So you just loop that thing and blow up their Leyline if you need to, or whatever you need to get rid of. And then you also have Ancient Stirring, so there's no way that Emrakul can be the bottom card of your library because you can cast it while you're going off and put not Emrakul cards on the bottom of your deck.
Oh, very, very nice. Now, we were, we have the card viewer and we have some cards up on the side. Basically, your Mox Opals and your Terrarians were you were playing 2 Black Lotuses at a time or 2 Sol Rings at a time that somehow draw you cards. You produce so much mana. I don't know. I don't really have a question there. I just wanted to talk about playing 2 Black Lotuses at a time.
Yeah, that's one of the keys to the deck, I think. And one thing that we found pretty clearly was you don't really run out of mana that much once you get Clan Ironworks into play. The thing you need to worry about is cards. And you have this engine with, even if you don't get the full lock or the full combo assembled, of sack my Mind Stone to draw a card, returning a Chromatic Star, which, and then you play that, and then you draw a card with that and return your 0-drop. And you keep going deeper and deeper in that way. But yeah, you end up way more likely to be gated on not having enough cards than not having enough mana. So we're playing a lot of choices like Mind Stone. You can play Everflowing Chalice in that spot, which is good because you can play it for 0 while you have a Clan Ironworks in play to just net 2 mana. But we found that you just don't need that kind of effect that often. You really need the cards, which is what Mind Stone provides.
How often does that extra card draw off the Mind Stone come into play as well?
Oh, I think I would have whiffed in that game too if I didn't have if that card had been Everflowing Chalice instead of Mind Stone. I don't think I would have been able to kill John.
Now, you obviously felt like this was an environment that was favorable. You talked about some of the cards that you haven't seen a lot of. What's a metagame that you might find very hostile to a deck like this?
Yeah, so those cards that I mentioned, decks that are faster than you, like Storm and Infect, can be pretty rough just because you don't really have a lot of interaction along the way. You're just doing your thing, and if they're a quicker deck than you and can kill you faster, that's pretty rough. And then also Spell Queller sort of decks that have like an aggressive component while also having some good counter magic. So Spell Queller and Death Shadow are also kind of card decks you don't want to play against.
So while you were playing, we talked about sideboard cards that might be strong against you, and one of the cards that was brought up was Surgical Extraction. Another one was Relic of Progenitus. How does your deck necessarily play around cards like that?
So the graveyard hate cards that don't just flat out stop cards from going to the graveyard, period, like Rest in Peace, are not nearly as bad because what you can do is build up a big enough board of stuff in play, and then you sack a thing, Scrap Trawler trigger goes on the stack, they go like, okay, well, I'll Surgical that, and then you just sack another thing and return the card that they targeted with Surgical because you just have enough stuff in play. So that's sort of how you get around that.
All right. Well, Sam Pardee, 6-0. You said only one loss that you were aware of thus far with the deck. It's pretty exciting. I'm sure we'll see more Clan Ironworks and hopefully get to interview you a couple more times over the course of the weekend, Sam. Good luck the rest of the way. That was awesome. What an exciting deck. Sam's just one of the great guys on the Pro Tour, and been a tremendous success story over the past couple seasons. We got more Magic coming up for you, though. Don't go anywhere. We got a couple brief messages, and then more of Round 6 here at Grand Prix Phoenix. with Brandon Marshall, Jake Van Lunen. We have some time walk magic for you. We have Patrick Tierney versus Owen Turtenwald. We're going to pick it up in game 2. And I can tell you that Patrick Tierney won game 1. And Owen Turtenwald is trying to even things up here. Patrick Tierney might not be a name that you recognize as much as Owen Turtenwald, who, Owen Turtenwald 4 Pro Tour top 8s, 24 GP top 8s. But Patrick Tierney, 3 Grand Prix top 8s, and all of them last year in 2017.
Wow.
So, including a Legacy GP. His Oklahoma City top 8 was with Jeskai Breach in Modern. So, but he's playing Jund here this weekend. He's also off to a 4-1 start.
And picking up a game playing Jund against Owen Turtenwald on Tron is not an easy feat.
Mono green Tron for, there you see double Relic of Progenitus now for Owen Turtenwald here. And what makes that card so good against Jund? Is that just because you're thinking about Tarmogoyfs?
I think Tarmogoyf is really the main card you're concerned about here. Jund can also do things like play Kolaghan's Command and rebuy threats, but in this matchup more than anything, I think Owen's just kind of using the Relic to cycle through his deck because he has so many high-impact cards that he can draw off the top on particular turns and essentially just win the game on the spot, that having these things on the board that just sit there and allow him to draw a card when he wants to, perhaps on Patrick's end step or during his main phase when he has an unreasonable amount of mana, those things are really strong and make his deck more resilient to Patrick Tierney's hand disruption spells.
Well, there you go. There you see a Thoughtseize, which looks at a hand with Ulamog, Wormcoil Engine, Karn, Thragtusk, and a Forest. Now, plenty of choices here.
Yeah, and Owen does not have the ability to put Tron together quite yet, and
not counting the top of his deck.
Yeah, he needs to find something like a Sylvan Scrying, an Expedition map, a tower itself. He has multiple draw steps to do it. He does have this Relic.
So Owen's going to remove his own Wormcoil Engine with the Relic, which saves him 2 points of damage because for Tarmogoyf that counts as an artifact and a creature. So nice play there from Owen. Only takes 1 from the Tarmogoyf.
Now Owen making a decision here whether or not he wants to crack that. I think right now the card is giving him enough breathing room that he might choose not to.
Yeah, I mean, he can put Patrick to put it to an 0-1 just by removing a card, right?
Precisely. And he knows that Patrick doesn't really have much in the way of disruption if he's not drawing it off the top of his library.
So here you see Owen just chooses to put him down to a 0-1 and then plays a land. He just drew that for the turn, the second Forest. I think. No, he had that in hand. So he has 1 card we don't know yet.
Pretty Forest there. I've always liked that Forest.
Okay, well, here's a second Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, not the most impressive card here against this Relic of Progenitus from Owen.
And down comes Thragtusk.
Huh?
5/3, gain 5 life. When you kill it, I will get a 3/3 beast token. Thank you very much. I mean, one of the nice things about it, it's even just when it leaves play. It's not even when you kill it.
Yeah, it makes it interact very nicely with cards that might blink it in some way or another.
Deadeye Navigator comes to mind for the Commander players out there.
Yeah. It's a particularly exciting way to do it.
So a card we've talked about a lot this weekend so far, although we haven't seen a ton of it, is Kolaghan's Command. And I think that's what we're going to see right now.
And here, a really nice use of Kolaghan's Command here from Patrick Tierney, finding a window to cast that card just about perfectly. he recognizes Owen doesn't have the mana open to sacrifice the relic and draw a card. Plus, currently with the cards in the graveyard and in play, it just sets Owen up so that he's going to have to discard another relevant card too.
Wow. Bolt takes down the Beast token. Now you have Artifact, Instant, Sorcery. So he gets in for 6 there.
Is there a sorcery?
Oh, no, there isn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at that Thoughtseize, which is not
Yeah, it's sideways.
not upright. Can Owen find a missing piece of the Tron puzzle here?
And that's something that's scary for Patrick here, is that he's done a very good job disrupting Owen. He took that Wormcoil engine, and this is a turn where Owen would probably be able to cast that Wormcoil had it not been for, that's Tron.
That's Karn. It's my new sitcom.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Karn.
It's just Karn.
Karn goes up to 10. Says, please exile a card, sir, from your hand. It's a Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, now, even if Patrick chooses to activate, say, Treetop Village, or if he has the extra land, Raging Ravine, that's still only 8 coming at the Karn, so he needs to do something else. Maybe Maelstrom Pulse is a good answer?
Yeah, it is. Wow, Maelstrom Pulse gets even bigger. So those are 4s now, thanks to... Or are they 5s?
I believe they're 4s now, because now there's Planeswalker, Artifact, Instant Sorcery.
Okay.
And Owen has 10 mana and...
And Ulamog.
Yeah, pretty hungry card in hand, so I imagine that's going to be the angle of attack that he chooses on this turn.
The hungriest of hippos.
Yes.
Now the question is, what do you take here if you're Owen? Do you like Stone Rain your opponent into oblivion? Or do you just remove the 2 Tarmogoyfs?
So that was actually a decision for Owen, because if he had been able to take away both of Patrick's black sources, then he could block Liliana from getting rid of the Ulamog, which is exactly what I was about to bring up.
Off the top. There's Ancient Stirrings. Can he find another Ulamog?
He can.
Well, yes, he can.
It's like spinning a marvel, right?
the 1 mana marvel?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then you got to pay. But then you got to pay 10.
Yeah, and now he may just want to take out both black sources so that he can't get Liliana again.
Wow. All right, a second black source here coming for Patrick. Does he? He doesn't have another Liliana, does he?
I don't know.
He could also have Bloodbraid into Liliana.
That's true. He could have Bloodbraid into Liliana. It's a scary situation for Owen here.
He says, oh, yeah, my life total's not really going to matter that much here. The clock is pretty much the same either way
yeah.
on the Ulamog race.
When it comes to life totals, divisibility by 10 is something that's like a...
Wow. So this is going to be Bloodbraid Elf, I believe. It is. Can he Bloodbraid into another Liliana? He does play more than 1 Liliana of the Veil,
I'm sure he's playing 4 Liliana of the Veil. I guess sometimes they play 3. Yeah.
Well, he does it!
Oh my goodness!
Gosh.
Oh, well
That's
then.
insane!
That is crazy.
And he gets to attack for 3. Wow.
Yeah.
Patrick Tierney. John is just loving him right here. Owen Turtenwald. Draws for the turn. He's got Sylvan Scrying. Not the most exciting draw here. Finds himself a Ghost Squatter.
Yep, and that'll be able to take out the Raging Ravine and or Treetop Village that would be joining the fray here and closing the game out by one turn faster than otherwise. So nice of Owen to recognize that he can give himself 2 extra turns there as opposed to 1 extra turn by searching up Ghost Quarter there.
Grand Prix players, time is up. Active player, please finish
Wow.
your turn. Then both players
And Owen thought about getting rid of Black Sources instead of dealing with those Tarmogoyfs when he cast that first Ulamog. And he weighed his options and decided that getting rid of both the Tarmogoyfs was his best course of action. And it just turned out that the way Patrick's hand was set up, it lined up really well here. And got to give credit to Patrick. Here he is winning one of the hardest matchups to win with the Jund deck against one of the best players to ever touch a Magic card
Absolutely.
in 2-0.
Bloodbraid into Liliana of the Veil to deal with your Ulamog. Wow. You mentioned Aetherworks Marvel earlier in the match, and Aetherworks Marvel is a card that actually had reminded us in a lot of ways of Bloodbraid Elf and the Cascade mechanic.
Yeah.
So there's a Fulminator Mage. And now Liliana's going to tick up to 2. Both players will discard a card. Not something either player can actually do, but it still gets to tick up. Wow.
And here, Patrick
So now it's
choosing-
Owen's turn to top deck. Is there something he can find here?
Oh, there are definitely things he can find here.
He's tapping a lot of mana.
Yeah. Oh
Ugin
my goodness.
The ceaseless. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. And now he is going to force Patrick to lose all of his permanents.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's interesting there because Owen has that Ghost Quarter, and he forces Patrick to use Fulminator Mage to deal with the Ghost Quarter instead of taking him off Tron, because Patrick needs access to either Raging Ravine and or Treetop Village if he wants to be able to finish off that Ugin from Owen here. So Owen clearing up Patrick's board. Patrick still has that Raging Ravine in play, but is going to need to find another land in order to activate it to get that Ugin off the table. He could also find a Bloodbraid Elf and or a Lightning Bolt to get the Ugin off the table for what it's worth.
Wow.
So lots of cards here that do that.
By the way, that Bloodbraid Elf and that Liliana are also going to be leaving the battlefield.
Yes. The Spirit Dragon has something to say about them.
The Fulminator Mage activation and Ghost Quarter was a whole response to the activation of the Spirit Dragon. So now it's Patrick's turn to top deck again. What can he find?
Yeah.
It's not a Bloodbraid Elf, because he would have slammed that into play.
Yeah. Land, Bolt, Bloodbraid, all of these are ways to get that Ugin off the table. Bloodbraid into Bolt just wins the game on the spot.
But it's nothing he can play here, so. And now Owen starts to climb back in the game with like a series of colorless lightning
Whoa!
Worm coil engine off the top.
Goodness. This is a pretty exciting game, Brian. Not going to lie.
It's like usually, players are playing empty-handed. They're just drawing lands. Oh, there was a Terminate. He's going to terminate the Worm Coil engine.
Couple of
it's still going to leave behind some
tokens,
detritus
yeah.
that he needs to deal with.
These guys.
Wow. Just starts bolting away here. Liliana a little too late. You want lifelink or you want death touch?
Yeah, so you want something that can fight against the Tarmogoyf, or you want something that can get you out of double bolt range? I think he's going to get rid of the death touch. It means that he can still attack freely without having to worry about like Bloodbraid Elf into bolt or something like that, just finishing him off.
Now Ugin gets to finish off Liliana. Or is he just going straight at Patrick and doesn't care about Liliana at this point?
Yeah, just going straight for Patrick. Now, Liliana's only mode is +1,
Right.
which is each player discards a card. Owen has no cards in hand.
Right.
He's able to put Patrick down to 3. He has a 3-power creature on the battlefield and Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I think he's thinking to himself, if you have enough mana to deal with my Ugin, you're not going to have enough mana left over to deal with this 3/3. I can put you in a position where I win basically no matter what you draw.
Wow.
Really well played there by Owen.
What an amazing series of top decks on both sides of the table there. Crazy. It looks like we've maybe got a couple of mulligans here. I'm not sure.
Wow, a lot of mulligans.
Or we're just jumping forward in the shuffling action.
Yeah.
New time-lapse shuffling. So, yeah, Patrick did mulligan. He's keeping a card on top. And he is going to kick things off here with an Inquisition of Kozilek. And Owen's like, okay. Well, you know what? With a hand, Karn, Thragtusk, Ulamog, 2 lands, and 1 Tron piece, that expedition map was actually going to do a lot of work for Owen.
Yeah, that's a really, really important card to get out of Owen's hand there. See what Owen's able to draw. It's an expedition map.
All right. But Thoughtseize coming up here for Patrick if he wants it. Yes, he does. So what are you going to take Thragtusk here?
I think I take Thragtusk. I think I'm trying to win this game within the window before Tron happens. Owen's going to need one more piece and our card that finds it.
Looks like
to really
now
put
it looks
together.
like Patrick's holding another Thoughtseize. So does that change you
Oh.
to go to the Karn plan? And I think that's what happened.
If he has another Thoughtseize in hand, then
did, yeah.
I like that. Yeah. I think it's entirely reasonable.
So he decided to go Karn. Looks like we're going to see Dark Confidant pass. Not worried about Owen being able to deploy the Karn this turn and maybe get to see a couple extra cards if he waits a turn.
Yeah, and I like Patrick waiting on the Thoughtseize here. Patrick knows the contents of Owen's hand for the most part and knows that Owen will not have access to Tron on the following turn. And because of that, he can somewhat safely pass the turn and just deploy this Dark Confidant.
Until we build our new Explore Tron deck where you get to play 2 Tron pieces in one turn.
Super surprising.
All right. 2/3 of the way to 7 mana. And now we'll almost certainly see the Thoughtseize get fired off here. Take out that second copy of Karn from Owen's hand. See what else is up. There's still an Ulamog in the future that he's got to deal with.
I know it's not that far off from that Ulamog, surprisingly. Even after that Thoughtseize taking the map on turn 1, it's just crazy.
Fulminator Mage just came off the top for Patrick Tierney. He hit a free land off of his Dark Confidant and then drew Fulminator Mage. And he is going to Fulminator Mage right now, take down one of those Tron pieces, and then he's not in a hurry. He can wait on that Thoughtseize still.
Incredible line here from Patrick.
So there's Sylvan Scrying.
Yeah, Fulminator Mage really obviously shining in a matchup like Tron. I mean, that's the whole reason you're putting Fulminator Mage in your deck.
Yeah, and in this deck where you get to Colligan's Command Fulminator Mage back to your hand sometimes.
Feels kind of nice.
Against a Tron deck, that's exactly where you want to be. Well, there's a Tarmogoyf. He's going to lose 2 life to that. All right, here comes a Thoughtseize from Patrick. After he attacks for 2 with the Dark Confidant. Oh, he has Colligan's Command in hand.
Yeah, so after he deploys his Thoughtseize, if he's able to keep Owen off Tron for another turn.
Well, so you have to take the map here, right?
Think so?
Now, why would Owen not have played the map?
He's protecting it from Koligon's command, I imagine.
Okay.
It's also become kind of in vogue for Jund decks to sideboard in some amount of artifact removal, specifically to get maps when there's not mana to sacrifice them for stuff. And Owen probably played a lot of Tron coming into this tournament. I'm sure he understands all of the complex nuances of these matchups here.
All right, Sylvan's Scrying completes the Tron for Owen, but you know what? We're going to see Colligan's command here from Patrick Tierney. He's going to make Owen discard a card, and he's going to return a Fulminator Mage to his hand. So just dismantling Owen's ability to get his Tron all online at the same time. So Dark Confidant hits another Thoughtseize.
Yeah, Patrick doing a really good job here. Just ripping Owen to pieces. The thing that's so terrifying, though, is that no matter Patrick's deck has operated on all cylinders here. It's done everything it needs to do. And if Owen can just chain together the correct sequence of cards, he can jump right back into this game.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so Thoughtseize. Yeah, it's getting one hit from an Ulamog by the time he's done Thoughtseizing and taking damage. But first we're going to Fulminator Mage. You start looking at pieces that are already in the graveyard to figure out which one you're going to destroy here.
You just want to follow suit, you know.
Yeah. Whatever one's in there, that's the one I destroy on the board.
Yeah. Once you get all four.
Yeah. Now he's thinking about whether or not he wants the Thoughtseize here. He does. So he's like, all right, I'll take your Thragtusk. Even if you hit the Tron piece here, you're still a little bit away from Ulamog. I still have some room. Crucible of Worlds for Owen Turtenwald.
My goodness gracious.
Crucible of Worlds.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, Patrick Tierney?
So Patrick Tierney's got to close this one quick. So what he needs to do is he needs to find ways to end the game. Because when he passes the turn back to Owen,
he's going to get Ulamogged.
Owen's going to Ulamog. Owen's still at 14. Patrick, he's done a really good job of disrupting Owen, but there wasn't a ton of pressure to back it up. He's just been attacking for
he's got the Maelstrom Pulse for the Crucible of Worlds. There we go.
Huh.
That's been hanging around for a little while in his hand. He's got a Bloodbraid Elf at the ready for next turn.
It's an important one. I mean, it's dangerous, though. If Owen just top decks a Tron piece.
Right, he's at 8 mana right now. It looks like he does have a Tron piece. Right now, I think Owen is trying to decide what is going to get mogged.
And it's really difficult for him to Ulamog in such a way that he protects himself from Liliana of the Veil. So I don't think he's going to have an option to really play around that.
It looks like he ripped another tower, I believe.
He's playing the best mine, you know, the mine that looks like a tower.
All right, there's Ulamog. He's going to take out Dark Confidant, and I assume Treetop Village? Sure.
Yep.
All right, well, it's time to Bloodbraid into Liliana of the Veil again. No, he's going to Bloodbraid into Duress this time. Not as good.
No, not as good.
Owen is going to get to finally attack with an Ulamog.
I'm interested to see whether or not he wants to. He probably does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He most certainly does. So
the trigger goes on the stack. 20 cards get exiled. How many Lilianas are in there? And or Blood Braids.
there's one Blood Braid.
One Liliana.
Yeah.
Owen's like, I'd like to look too. Or it might be 2 Lilianas. Yeah, it is. 2 Lilianas, 1 Blood Braid. That's kind of basically where Patrick is right now, right? It's Liliana or no.
Yeah, and he also has to pass the turn back to Owen on the next turn.
With a million mana in play.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what Owen drew for his turn here. It may just be nothing.
Looks like it's an Oblivion Stone, actually.
It's a really nice insurance policy to have on the battlefield.
Pretty exciting with an indestructible creature.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick Tierney. It is on you to find something off the top of your deck here. Place Tarmogoyf. That's not going to do it.
No, it will not.
Attack with Bloodbraid Elf.
Imagine Owen's just going to take this, even if Patrick has Bolt. Still safe. Because Owen might be afraid of Patrick playing untapped. I guess there aren't really untapped red sources left, right? And then having, it's like triple Bolt or something. Hey, crazier things have happened in games of Magic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Owen goes to 9. Says, good enough for me.
And that's
Yeah,
it.
Owen's going to activate the stone at the end of the turn. That means Ulamog will live to attack through it. Finish him off on damage and decking at the same time.
Indestructibility.
Indestructibility is
Working
very
nicely
good.
with the stone.
Wow, that was a crazy match of Magic. We only got to watch 2 games there. Lots of top decks on both sides. Lots of very powerful Magic cards getting slung about, but ultimately it was Ulamog's Ceaseless Hunger that got sated, and Owen wins the match 2-1. He goes up to 5-1 here with 2 rounds to go. I imagine we may very well see Owen playing in the cut, which is the next 2 rounds of coverage, which will be brought to you by Marshall Sutcliffe and Eduardo Sajgalek, but in the meantime, we have some more Magic for you.
I'd also like to just talk for 1 second about that match, to just decompress out of that.
Well, let's go into this here, and then we'll talk about that when we come out, because we have game 2 here between Rax Dillon and Jack Kiefer. Jack Kiefer playing a deck older than he is, Ponza.
Ponza's actually been pretty good as of late. Ponza just won the SCG Modern Tournament that happened recently. It's a deck that a lot of people have been surprised by in terms of the level of success it's experienced, because here we are in a Modern format where one of the most popular decks, everything costs 1, and they're stone raining people and winning matches.
I feel like this is some fancy artisanal 2-color Ponza, as opposed to the mono-red Ponza-Rata decks that you and I grew up with, Jake.
Yeah, I think
Kids these
that's
days.
Right. Kids these days. They just don't get it. They've never cast a Dwarven Blast Miner in their lives.
Well, here's a Blood Moon from Jack Kiefer. And we see Rax Dillon is going to go find himself a basic land.
The thing about Ponza is that you're going to get a lot of free wins off of cards like Blood Moon. And in addition to that, the fact that you're now playing cards like Bloodbraid Elf, you're just playing powerful spells. The first time your opponent cast Inferno Titan against you in Modern also, you realize just how disgusting that card is against the Modern metagame. Like, everything's got 1 toughness. That thing attacks once and the game ends. It's an impressive strategy, this Ponza deck.
Yeah, here we see Rax Dillon not able to cast a Bloodbraid Elf, despite the fact that he has the 4 lands in play. Blood Moon keeping him off of green mana. And now the Stone Rain begins. Make it Stone Rain, Jack Kiefer. He takes out the basic land, plays a Relic of Progenitus, Says, remove a card from your graveyard. And now Dillon plays another in a series of mountains. Well, Jund plays red. What does it play that's just red outside of maybe Lightning Bolt?
I think just Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Occasionally they'll have a Chandra Torch of Defiance.
Okay.
That's a card I've seen from time to time.
Here's a Tyler's Tracker. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's going to get Lightning Bolted here. Right, no ability to sack the fetch land there in response or do anything because it's not a fetch land anymore, it's a mountain.
Yeah.
And Jack plays a second copy of Blood Moon.
The Ponza deck also has some really explosive draws using the combination of Arbor Elf alongside Utopia Sprawl. This is something that you'll see a lot where the deck is able to produce disgusting amounts of mana on like the second turn of the game.
All right, here's a Bloodbraid Elf into a Relic of Progenitus. Now you can sort of cash one of those in for cards if you want. And does Dillon get to play Magic this round?
Doesn't look like it.
Jack cashes in a clue. He's 5-0 with this deck, by the way. And looks very well along the way to being 6-0.
It would surprise me a lot
All right,
if he did not win this round.
Another Tireless Tracker. Gets another clue.
I think it's important that we remember how good Tireless Tracker is.
Oh, I love Tireless Tracker.
Tireless Tracker is one of the best 3-mana planeswalkers in the history of Magic the Gathering.
Every time I got past that card in the Magic Online Legacy, Modern Legacy Cube, I was like, what? Why are people passing this?
Yeah, have people ever played this card and then played a land?
Yeah. Have you
weren't
ever
they
played
crazy?
it with Oracle of Moldiah?
Oh.
All right, so now Jack is going to cash in one of his relics to draw a card. And he is going to town with this Tireless Tracker. He's going to draw another card here. Should keep the lands flowing for him. Okay, even the Arbor Elf gets to attack. It's like a happy day in Kieferville.
And only one more turn left for Rax, and I can't really imagine much that he could do now. It's not like he could produce both green and black on the same turn to play something like Maelstrom Pulse and free him.
There's another mountain. It's all mountains in play for Rax right now. And that's the attack step. And Jack Kiefer is 6-0 with Ponza.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting there. We got a really good look at why that deck is appealing. When you don't let your opponent play Magic, you're winning.
Absolutely.
It's pretty simple.
Blood Moon is a really powerful card.
May seem like not a lot of fun.
I mean, the deck's ceiling is also really high. It doesn't have to necessarily just stop the opponent from doing anything. Like, you play turn 1 Arbor Elf, then turn 2 you Utopia Sprawl a Forest, tap it for 2 mana, tap the Arbor Elf, untap it, tap it for another 2 mana. You're casting Bloodbraid Elf on turn 2. Sometimes flipping into a Stone Rain that kills your opponent's only land or a Blood Moon. The deck's powerful.
I would not mind seeing that. We have more Magic coming up for you. Coming up next is The Cut. This is where we see all the players who are trying to get into day 2. Marshall Sutcliffe and Eduardo Sagiluc will be bringing that to you. Don't go anywhere. Jake and I, we're going to go get dinner.